welcome to Super TalkShow. It's so nice to have you here with us, and it's really an honor to host you tonight.
Thank you, Heidi.
Yeah,
It's
thank
my
you.
pleasure to be here.
So to start off the interview, I guess people don't really know you yet, but do you want to give an introduction about yourself to Super audience?
Okay, sure. So my name is Laís. I'm from Brazil. Um, and I have been working with refugee issues related for 5, 6 years from now. And before that, I used to work more with sustainability. So I participated of UN events related to that, like Rio Plus 20 here in Brazil, and the major group Youth and Children from UN, and many other things that were related to that. But I decided to change once I got into university. I studied at the University of Brasilia. And I decided to change a little bit when I got into university because I saw that there is no sustainable development if people don't have, their rights. So, and we were back then we were starting like a one refugee crisis here that was from Venezuela, which is a close country from Brazil. And so many people were starting to get here, and that's how I started with the refugee related issue. And I think it also says a little bit about me because I started participating on international organizations since I'm 16
Oh, wow.
because of because of like these sustainability related issues which I was involved. So I participated, for example, of Earth Guardians. They train young people to become climate journalists, and I also participated of Climate Tracker. That was this one that I talked about, and then Earth Guardians, which is I created the hub here in Brazil, the hub of Guardians, which is an youth organization created by a small boy who was a small boy back then. He's not anymore, but who created that organization. And I met him in Rio Plus 20, and we decided to try to create it here. So we created together this hub of the organization here, and that's basically who I am. Like I like to write, and I started back then in 2012 when I was 16.
Oh, wow. That was a long, long list of cool things that you've done for the betterment of the world. I think it's really cool how you pivoted from sustainable development goals to refugee issues. And I'm wondering how, because right now I'm living in Poland and there's the Ukrainian war going on, of course. And I've also been pivoting the direction of my volunteering experience. So how did that pivot really go for you? I know the Venezuela refugee crisis inspired that pivot, but what exactly did you do to make it actionable? Were you how were you helping the refugees? Like in what ways?
Okay.
Yeah.
So first I started in my university.
Mhm.
So we have a project in my university related to refugees. But it was more like a research. So I wanted to know what they needed. So I did a research with Spanish speaking refugees and immigrants in my city to try to understand what they needed. And from there, I started knowing different organizations. So, for example, Caritas and other organizations which I started volunteering, and even different projects in my university. So I started teaching Portuguese to refugees. And I started teaching Portuguese to refugees. I worked at Caritas besides of doing this first intellectual project because I wanted to know them better in order to work with them. So I created this research with one of my professors who is from Spain. So she actually guided me with the Spanish and everything. So after doing this research, I started working for Caritas, where the refugees, they came, and I had, for example, to help them creating their CVs, or then they needed. We have a system here in Brazil for refugees, which is called Sisconari, And in the system, you just write, for example, their name. Sorry.
I think the
So
connection
you
with,
just write,
yeah.
yeah. So you just write all their data on that database, which is called Sisconari. And from there, you have to go to the police station. And in the police station, they will schedule an interview for you. So an interview for that refugee, which might or might happen in a long time, but it's quite a long way. So usually for you to become a refugee in Brazil, it takes from 2 to 4 years. So
Wow.
yeah, so yeah, so you need, for example, you go to this police station, which is called Polícia Federal, because it's the federal police in Brazil. So you go to the federal police, and they will issue a card for you, and they will put your data on the system. So after a long time, you will be on their system, so they can schedule the interview. I actually made a small mistake, which is they don't actually schedule the interview, but they actually just put your data in another database, which is their database. They are the immigration police, we can say.
Mhm.
So
I think that is,
that,
yo, sorry.
no, go on.
Yeah, I think that's quite a confusing process in general for anyone to go through. So were you like sort of like helping? Well, you were helping them with their CVs, right?
Yeah, I was helping them with whatever they needed. So they got there, I was there. And if they needed a CV, then I would create a CV for them or translate their CV from the language that they came. Or, they needed to get into the system. Cisconari, most of them, what they wanted was the refugee status. And for that, I had to, write on the system their names and everything. So most of my work was related to that. But also, for example, they said, okay, and where is the police station? Where do I need to go? Which documents do I need to bring? So I explained to them the fastest way, and we had maps and everything to guide them through the way. And also in Caritas, I also did, for example, they so when they come here, there is, when they come to my city, they are in a process already. So mostly they come from Pacaraima, which is from North Brazil, and here I am in the center of Brazil. I am in Brasilia, which is the capital.
Mm-hmm.
So when they come here, they are already in a process that we call interiorization. So they are coming to other cities so they can live on these places. Brazil is a really big country, so they go to many different regions. And that's through a system and a project actually called USAID. So United States of America, they send money to help on this project, which is why I talked about USAID, because they give a lot of money for this.
Mm-hmm.
So these people, they stay in houses for 3 months, and Caritas is also connected to this project. So what we did was to receive these people, and also, buy food for them and go there, and sometimes go with the children, and make questions related to what they needed, curate events. So I participated of some events, like doing basic stuff such as bringing things and helping them, and organizing, and serving food.
Mm-hmm.
All these things. Sometimes we used to bring food for them, so we used to go to their houses and take food and tell them, okay, what is missing there, what do you need? And that's how the CV part was also related, because they needed to, after they finished, they needed to actually have work, because for those 3 months, they have a house and they have food. But after these 3 months, they need to structure themselves in the city. So
Definitely.
what we try to do, what we try to do is like a really fast way to integrate them into society, into the Brazilian society.
Oh my God. Yeah, definitely. I've been like creating a nonprofit called United Youth, and it's really just taking on this idea of like increasing language integration for refugees because they need it in, you know, their working life, stuff like that. And you've been using like the same vocabulary I'm putting on, you know, the mission statement of United Youth. So yeah, I'm really interested in that. So you help them with the CV and go on. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, so I help them with the CVs, with food, and also with language. But I wasn't on this first moment. I wasn't related to teaching them the language. So we had this part of the project, which was for them to learn Portuguese. So they went to this kind of school, and they learned it. They learned Portuguese, but it was not only Portuguese. So we had different levels because Spanish is quite similar to Portuguese. So some of them, they already had some understanding of it. And as they already had some understanding of it, you had different classes. So, for example, you had one class which was for people who was already integrated here, but they wanted to keep learning, but not only the language. They wanted to keep learning, for example, about their rights. So I participated many times on these classes where they learned about their rights, but as their working rights, you know, because many of them, they didn't know that they didn't have to write I don't know how many hours for this amount of money, you know, that was illegal. They didn't know that. So we also have these classes, so they won't be explored, because that's something that can happen if they don't know the language, and if they don't know about their own working rights, you know, how does the Brazilian society work. So they have that. We have also people who come from Venezuela and other countries that are you know, they want to create business, so they need to learn the basics about economics and the basics about creating these things. And Caritas, where I was working, they also had these classes, and I helped with translation. So even for those who didn't have such you know, a deep development of the language, they would still be able to participate. So I translated. I wasn't teaching them, but I was translating from English, from Spanish. I tried both of them.
Wow.
So yeah, that was the first part, and you know, the first works that I did with this refugee integration, that was it. Then and at my university, I started working as a monitor for these classes. So there were Portuguese classes, and you have people from many different countries there, and you had different levels. So you had 1, 2, and 3. One, that it was for people who had not a clue of Portuguese. Two, they had a little bit, and then 3 who was okay, you are getting there, you know. So they, after this, they can apply for the test, because here in Brazil we also have a test that will help them to get citizenship as well. So it's a language test that helps them to get citizenship, just as in France you also have this demand, you know, if you want to become a citizen, you need to know the language and you have to make a test. It's the same thing in Brazil. So I helped them. I was a monitor on the third course. And I was a monitor actually related to one person who was he was a refugee from uh, from Pakistan. He was blind. He used to work in Pakistan and he was blind. He got blind because of disease. So he came to Venezuela to get treatment because it was less expensive. But in Venezuela, the crisis started, and
Oh,
he didn't know how to live or what to do. So he didn't have the treatment anymore. That's why he decided to leave and to come to Brazil. So here in Brazil, he has free treatment.
wow.
Yeah, in Brazil, he has free treatment. So he came to Brazil, and when he was already an immigrant in Venezuela. But here in Brazil, he became a refugee because he was coming from Venezuela. So he became a refugee here, but he needed language classes. And as he already learned, he already learned English because he was in Pakistan and he worked a lot there. So he learned English, but he also had his own language there. So he already knew 2 languages. And when he came to Venezuela, he knew 3 languages. So actually he learned very fast Portuguese, so it wasn't really difficult to do that, but I had to translate things for him in a way that he would understand because he was blind. So that was a bit more difficult, like to make this work because he had to learn how to write and everything. So and to actually understand Portuguese because his main goal was to be able to go out on the streets and be able to understand what people are talking are saying because he couldn't see, he can't see. So he needs to, be able to know things more from his own ears because he won't be able to rely on his eyes. And so that was the second time that I worked with refugees. And then I went to an exchange in France. When I went to an exchange in France, I started working with refugee children. So I taught them. I looked for organizations actually. I typed on Google and looked for organizations that worked with children and, immigrant children, refugee children, and from then, I spent 6 to 8 months working with refugee children and immigrant children as well, who lived in France, but most of them had a long way. So their parents came from African countries to Italy, and then from Italy they were born in Italy, but their parents didn't get the citizenship there, and so they moved to France, and in France they were able to actually stay and find their own place in the world. But yeah, that was the second time, and then the third time that I was working with refugees, and I actually
So that was
wanted to. So
right. That was the third
yeah,
time. Yeah.
yeah, that was the third time. And then after, when I came back to Brazil, I thought I want to keep teaching. So I kept on teaching 2 women who came from Venezuela, and I was teaching them Portuguese. But they already had a good development of Portuguese, so it wasn't such a big challenge to teach them.
Mhm.
And after teaching them, uh, well, what else? Yeah, after teaching them, I got this year into another organization to teach women who were in the border of Brazil with Venezuela. But I'm here, so I taught them online.
Mhm.
And after teaching them on that time, I applied to I applied to this UN internship. But to be honest, I forgot one more time that I volunteered as well, which was I volunteered in 2000 back to 2018 before going to my exchange in France, which I went in 2020. I volunteered on the Ministry of Justice. So the Ministry of Justice, they open places so we could transcribe and translate refugee interviews.
Mhm. Sorry, my light is getting
So
dark and yeah, I couldn't really see. It's getting dark out there. But yeah, you sound like you have like a so long list of, volunteering experience. You even lost track many times yourself. So wow, definitely. I wanna, yeah, keep on going because I want you to get to the internship part because I think that's like super interesting for most of the super audience.
okay, so in 2020, I had this internship that was a volunteer internship at the Ministry of Justice, which was really important for the UN internship that I am now, because on this one I translated and transcribed the interviews. So their interviews. So and besides, I also like when they needed, I received the refugees on their own languages because I speak English, French, and Spanish. So when they needed, I came there and helped them. Yeah, and it was also useful on to get this volunteer internship
Mhm.
because I had to translate from English, French, and Spanish to Portuguese. But they didn't have many people who spoke English, French, so most of the interviews that they gave me was from French-speaking people. So mostly from Congo and the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Mhm.
Yeah, and yeah, and related to my internship, which is I think what you want to know most, I think that in order to get this internship, two experiences were really important, which is the one from Caritas, which I told you before, and the last one that was on the Ministry of Justice, because the internship that I do now, it's related to the Ministry of Justice. So I am at the Ministry of Justice, but as part of ACNUR, or as part of UNHCR. In Portuguese, we say ACNUR and not UNHCR.
I was confused. What? Mhm.
Yeah, ACNUR is actually UNHCR, but I'm used to say ACNUR because that's the Portuguese translation for it.
What's like it might what's the full form of acne in Portuguese? I'm curious if you say it. Yeah.
Uh, of ACNUR, I think it's yeah, I don't remember to be
Okay.
honest. I
Yeah.
don't remember, but it's almost the same thing. It's Alto Comissariado das Nações Unidas para os Refugiados.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah,
longer than United Nations. Wait, High
it's
Commissioner.
also complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing. But in Portuguese, the words are longer.
Oh.
So High Commission is comissariado.
Yeah, that's similar to English.
Yeah, just longer.
Mhm. So I'm curious, how does the Minister of Justice like relate to like what's the intersection between that? Like what do you do on a daily basis and how do you think the two organizations are related?
Okay, so here's the thing. Um, UNHCR and any UN agency, they work with the governments always.
Yeah, definitely.
So they need people who are working with the government, but who are working for them. You see, they are working at the government in some kind of level, like on
Yeah.
the daily day, we are there in the government, but we have, but by the end, we are not working for the government. We are working for them. So the interest between between UN and the interests of UNHCR, they are connected in a way. So UNHCR and the Brazilian government, they got into a table and they discussed what they needed.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, they decided which kind of interns they wanted. So you have administrative interns and you also have data interns. I was hired as a data intern, but mostly I do the same work as the administrative intern does as well.
Mm-hmm.
Does that solve your question? I'm not so sure.
I think it sort of does, but like what I'm just curious if you can share what do you do as a data intern or administrative intern and how many people are like interning with you?
One.
Whoa. One as
There are
the
not
data intern or the one as the administrative intern?
one as data. I mean, I am a data intern and she is an administrative intern.
Oh.
So we are two. There are not many interns for UNHCR, not at all. So yeah, for example, we have something that it's called intern mystery coffee. So we meet with different interns from different part of the world,
Oh my God,
uh,
that's so
which
cool.
are yeah, it's related to our interests. So we write in a form what are we interested at, and then they select the people who we are going to talk based on that interest.
Mhm.
They Yeah, it's nice,
Wow, that's
but
so cool.
yeah, it's
Like a
cool.
social
But
event.
huh?
It's like a social event where you get to meet,
Yeah,
network, and yeah. Wow.
yeah, it's a social event that happens once or twice in a month. You can choose between one time or two times, and
Mm.
you can choose not to do it as well. My
Oh,
colleague, she wasn't really interested.
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, she decided to skip that, but I thought, no, this is really cool.
Mm.
But because of that, I realized that there aren't many interns from UNHCR. because I saw on the list and there aren't many interns, you know,
Mhm.
or at least many interns who were interested on participated of this
Oh,
intern mystery
maybe,
topic.
maybe
Yeah, maybe.
lots of people are
Yeah,
younger. Yeah. Um,
yeah. But what I see is that, for example, our team, it's a small team, uh, 5, 6 people, and the two of us. So they make a lot of things and they are working a lot, but there are not many people.
mhm.
So, yeah, I think that's something that you need to keep on mind, that there aren't many people working directly with UNHCR. Sometimes you have people who are, I don't know how you'd say that in English, but it would be something as someone who was hired as a counselor, you know, for a specific issue that they have at the moment.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, okay. That's it. What else did you want to know? I mean, yeah, what else did you want to know?
I mean, you cover like a lot of things, and I'm just wondering or curious. Before your UNHCR and Minister of Justice experience, everything you've done for mentoring people throughout the like citizenship and application process, helping them with CVs, teaching classes to women and children in France. Well, children in France, but women in other places. That sounds like a lot of stuff. And what was your motivation between like well what's your motivation behind like doing these for I guess months or even years?
Yeah, many years.
Oh yeah.
My motivation, I think that I wanted to do something for them.
Mhm.
So I decided that I wanted to do something for them. And because I wanted to do something for them, every opportunity that I had, I participated. And I knew that it was important as well for my career. So I was trying to decide what I wanted for my life and what kind of career I wanted. So I tried many things. So if you take the UN organization in a whole, uh, many of these works they are related to different stages of UN. You know, so someone who teaches is not the person who is going to bring food for them, and I was trying many different fields
Mhm.
inside these humanitarian works
Mhm.
because I wanted to know if I wanted the humanitarian work, and I wanted to know which field would I fit in the humanitarian one, because you have many things, you know. You
Right.
can work with women, you can work with children, you can work with projects, you can work with what else? Yeah, like for example, the camps. You can work at the camps with food, like something that I was kind of doing it, but with their houses because we don't have camps in we don't have camps in Brazil. When
Mhm.
we put them in houses, you know, not camps, houses, so they will be integrated more easily. So I tried many different fields inside humanitarian because I wanted to know where I fit.
Mhm. Definitely. And sorry to cut you off, Laís, but actually, this is, I think, almost the longest Super Talk Show interview ever. And well, we have a 40-minute Zoom, and I see the time, like time left 0834. So definitely, I just want to ask one last question before it just closes us off. So if you can give one advice as a UN intern, UNHCR intern, um, and someone who's working in the Ministry of Justice, what would that be for our super audience? Maybe about like, keeping your time, like, well, time management, because you of course have a lot of things on your plate, or keep on going, motivation, or anything. Or maybe if we want to be UNHCR interns too, what would be a tip you have for us?
Okay, so if you want to be an intern at UNHCR, I think that you should try many things related to the humanitarian field. So don't do just one thing, you know, but experiment other fields, because I believe that they are looking for people who know many things, know many different things, because it gives you a broad perspective. If you work only with one thing, then your perspective might not be as wide, is when you work with many different things that are related to the same topic. So I believe that would be a good tip, you know.
Definitely. And you've showed that in your volunteering life, you know, you've worked with so many refugee demographics, you know, and with even disabled people who are not often, you know, the most common or the majority of the refugee population. So definitely having a lot of experience with everyone is important. And Super Talk Show audience should better note that down. Yeah, thank you so much, Laís, for being here on Super Talk Show and sharing your experience working with refugees.
Okay, thank you, Heidi. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.